Hello viewers, if you tuned in expecting to see how we did at Winton, I'm very sorry. We couldn't get everyone together to do the voiceover for that, so that will be hopefully the next video. And today I've got something else for you. And if you're wondering why there's a Volvo in the background, then didn't you look at the thumbnail? This is a Volvo episode. I'm going to formally introduce you to my Volvo, which has been in the background of many videos. Been inundated with literally comment about how we should be doing Volvo content. Why isn't there Volvo content? So it's Volvo content time. I'm going to introduce this car. I'm going to do a quick run through of my history with the car, what I've changed, what we're going to change, and on this episode we are going to do coilovers, new brakes, and attempt to do new wheels. So this is my 1992 Volvo 240 daily driver. These shots are all from a couple of days after I bought it. Features include an automatic transmission, a 2.3 litre lump of iron sitting in the front that kind of moves the car along, some ugly trim because it's one of the later sort of models, a dog, some bits of plastic that are hanging off, steel wheels covered with hubcaps, and an okay interior that's a little rough around the edges. With some small exceptions, everything you've just seen here stays basically the same for the next 18 months. Initial jobs included replacing the light lenses that had been full of water with ones that hadn't been full of water off the internet, and then making sure all the lights themselves actually worked. With the lights taken care of, it was time to deal with this god-awful looking front valence, splitter, chin spoiler, whatever you want to call it. Why this is not painted on the later cars, I do not understand. To remedy this, I painted it a colour that is not the same as the rest of the car, and clearly didn't do a very good job because 18 months later, it's all started to peel off. On the first significant drive I used it for after I'd bought it, it overheated pretty consistently. This turned out to be because the previous owner had driven through a plague of locusts and there were gubbins everywhere in the radiator. Rather than pressure washing it, I actually had an aluminium one from a parts car I'd bought, so I swapped that in. If you've watched Subcar before, you will know that we are very anti-cactus as a material for the bushings in your suspension. Since the ones that were in this car had West Germany written on them, and Germany was unified 2 years before this car was produced, I figured these were very cactus, and so I went through the car and replaced almost everything with poly bushings. I also replaced all 4 shock absorbers while I was in there, because the man at the roadworthy place said I had to. Following that, I did an acceptable job of putting a very poor quality head unit into the car, which I don't love the look of, but considering this is my everyday car and I do a lot of kilometers, Android Auto is a bit of a must for me. Also, something notable about this car is that it had, from the factory, an amplifier to power 2 6-inch speakers in the doors. This car has 2 speakers and it had an amplifier in it. Now with a modern head unit in it, if you turn the volume to like 15, the speakers are blowing out with no amp. I also made a slight attempt to stick all the trim back on with double-sided tape and things like that, as a lot of the clips were broken. You'll see in the after shots at the end of this video that I had varying success there, but in my defense, Rusty was almost no help at all. Other than the fitment of this pretty tasty Idle Volante steering wheel, which is one of the nicest individual items I own, that pretty much brings us up to now. I noticed while editing this video, I also did the fog lights. I have no video of doing that, but you can imagine me installing some fog lights. If you're wondering why there's a tow sticker on the front, it's because A, I'm a cool racing driver, and 2, I took it to a hill climb event when we were trying to film a video where this competed against Kit's daily driver Corona, but Kit couldn't get his shit together, and so I ran by myself and just got beaten by everyone. Because this thing obviously needs a little bit of TLC, a little bit of an aesthetic tidy up, a little bit of maintenance, things like that, I bought some stuff to help me with that. First of all, I've got these. And second of all, some of these. You might be saying, Cam, that doesn't look like new rings and a new ball joint in the front, or making your center brake light work in the rear. And to that I would say, yeah, it's not going to do any of that, but I'm not even going to think about the fact that it burns oil or the center brake light doesn't work or there's a little shudder in the front suspension if it's looking all sick on some BMW wheels. And yes, at some point in the future, soon, I will get to the maintenance stuff, but I may not even show that on the video because that's boring junk. Exciting junk is lowering it and putting it on some nice BMW wheels. I will, over time, be cleaning it up, fixing the little aesthetic blemishes, and there's going to be a manual swap as well, maybe eventually a motor swap. It's not all about the wheels and the stance, but for now it's about the wheels and the stance, and I wanted to start actually working on this thing, and I need to buy tyres for it because these ones are bald, and what better time to make some BMW wheels fit on it and to make it all low and steezy than when I need new tyres anyway. So I think that concludes the portion of the video where I defend myself against commenters that haven't even commented yet and probably won't comment. But yeah, I love this car. It's been my daily for like 18 months now. It's only let me down technically once, and yeah, it's sick. Now these are BMW style 5s. They are 16x8s. They're off an E38 7 Series. And I reckon these are going to give the car a nice sort of OEM plus feeling, considering these are 16s. The biggest wheel that came on Volvo 240s is a 15, but it's a big car, and I think that the extra inch of diameter, still with a nice meaty sidewall tyre on it, will really fill out the car nicely. Now these wheels are in pretty good shape with a little bit of gutter rash, this being the worst of it. And while they still are prettier than the rest of the outside of the car, gutter rash really rustles my jimmies. So I think I'm probably going to do a very light refurb job on these things before I put them on the car. For now though, I'm going to get cracking on the coilover install. I'm going to get the car lowered still on these wheels off a 940 because the rolling diameter is very similar to what I will have on the 16s, and my goal for the lowering is for the top of the tyre here to be about level with the top of the arch, which will result in a little bit of tuck at the rear. And like tuck, nah, it's not the coolest thing I suppose, but the arch is much lower on the rear of these than it is on the front. So I think that's kind of unavoidable, but I still want it to be like daily drivable, go over speed bumps, not take the front lip off on gutters sort of height, while looking a bit more racy, even though it's an auto 2.3 litre naturally aspirated Volvo. Racy's what we're going for. So for the Volvos, it's a Welding type coilover, so I'm going to cut the strut about there, and the coilover will slip over here. And while I've got all the brakes apart, I'm also going to do pads and discs, just because it kind of needs it, and there's a bit of a vibration under the braking, so I'm hoping that's just a warped disc or something. But side one is out, I'll get the other side out, and then we'll start welding stuff on. One step I didn't think of until right now, but is a pretty important one, is to actually take the spring and then the shock insert out before you cut it, so that you're not cutting into a canister of pressurized oil and gas. So I'm glad I cottoned onto that one. So while I'm in there, jobs are starting to add up. To fit the coilovers, they slip over here, which means I'm going to have to weld around in there, which means I need to take this backing plate off if I want to reach it properly. But to do that, I have to do the wheel bearing, and I don't know when the wheel bearings were last done in this car, so it'd be a good idea to, but I don't really want to, but I should. And now I'm being watched doing this sort of stuff, so I think I'm going to. So slight delay while hopefully someone has wheel bearings for me tomorrow, but if not, later in the week. Alright, so I'm ready to weld these on now. All chopped up, ready to go. Just going to put it on heaps of beans because this is all thick as. And I don't know. There's nothing to be worried about, but it feels weird cutting up your daily when you got to drive to work next week. So that's all of the welding done. Burned them in pretty good. I'm going to wait for those to cool down and I'll paint them probably tomorrow. In the meantime, I can move on to the rear because there's no fabrication required for that. It's just bolting stuff in. So, and there's a few bits and pieces I need to buy before the whole job's done, like wheel bearings and things like that. We'll see how we go in the morning. So it's Sunday now. It was probably wishful thinking to think that any of my local parts stores would have front wheel bearings for a Volvo 240 in stock on a Sunday, and they don't. So I'm going to move on to the rears. I've got the right rear disassembled, but not reassembled. There is actually something I did want to show that I'm a bit confused about with this, is that on the spring perch, it had a sticker that said that this goes at the top. But the top has this sort of arrangement on it. The bottom looks like this. So if, and this has to go in the skinny end of the spring, so that has to go in that end. Which means that this big end would be at the bottom, and like, that doesn't work obviously, but this will happily bolt through here. And then I've tested this fit, and the big end of the spring fits perfectly there. So, is that just a mistake by them, or am I doing something dumb? I don't know. I'm probably doing something dumb, but it doesn't mean they also didn't make a mistake. So I think I'm just gonna run it upside down from what they tell me to run it, but I don't know, I guess if this is the last time you ever see me on YouTube because my spring ejected itself and I rolled my Volvo 15 times, then we'll know they were right. I was gonna just start whacking suspension bits in, but since the brakes are somewhat in the way and I'm gonna do the brakes anyway, I figure I may as well do the brakes now as well. This is becoming a bit of a pattern, and so maybe it says more about me than it does about the people who made the coilovers, but I'm going to go ahead and disagree with another set of instructions. It tells me to completely remove the rear bump stop, which is what I've got in the vise here. I don't really like the idea of the shock absorber being the only form of bump stop, so what I'm actually going to do is just cut it right down so that there's still something there stopping the, I guess, that lower arm crashing into the car or any, bottoming out the shock or whatever. So I'm just going to cut it. So I'm just going to cut it here, and then I'll still have something. You join me now outside the shed because for some unknown reason I don't feel that it would be justifiable to put these crusty old brake calipers back onto my crusty old car. So I'm just going to give them a lick of paint to brighten things up. While the calipers are drying, I'm going to start putting the rear suspension back together. There we have the right-hand rear done. Now just gotta do 3 more corners. While the brake calipers are drying, I'm figuring I might do the classic homemade lathe technique of bolting one of the wheels that you want to sand nice and smooth onto your car and spinning it and sanding away nice and smooth so you don't get like low spots in your lip. And hopefully I don't die of carbon monoxide poisoning or being caught in a basket weave wheel. So it's concerning me a bit how clearly not straight this wheel is, or I guess I'm hoping it's the wheel. I'm going to pull it off now and see if that movement seems to be in anything else, because it's a pretty concerning amount of movement. I'm hoping you can see this in the video, but there is a wiggle there too. And if I move the camera to here, it's hard to tell if the disc is moving as well. I think this is going to be one of those problems for future cam, because it's getting towards the end of Sunday and I want to go home and get ready for the week. So stay tuned to see, I guess, whether everything in the rear end of my Volvo is rooted or if it's just some small error I've made. Ignoring that for now, I went back to reassembling the brakes so I could put the rest of the rear suspension all back together. So now that the rears are all back together, I'm going to start to move on to the fronts, which are not back together at all. I have painted the fronts a fetching silver quite poorly to match the rest of all the new bits. And I've not got heaps of experience setting up coilovers before, so I'm going to put it all in just as it was from out of the box, and then I guess I'll do some research to figure out how to dial in everything I want. All I've done is Sunny, the coilovers in that, and Kit sort of took the lead on that. You know, I'm fine with damping adjustment and stuff, but in terms of ride height and spring preload and things, I've got to go read everyone on the internet's opinion about it, and then I'll have a very strong opinion, and I'll, you know, defend that hill until I die about, you know, setting spring preload versus not and all that sort of stuff, because everyone seems to think that one way is going to kill you and one way is perfect. So I guess I'll figure that out when I get to it. Front suspension and rear suspension are both done now. I'm just going to throw the wheels on now and put the car on the ground because I need to get this out to get some other stuff in for a second. So it's not going to be aligned properly or anything like that, but it will be exciting to see it lower, however much lower the settings that the coilovers are already on are. It's not going to be the final wheel and tyre package, obviously, so we'll have to wait and stay excited for that, but still cool to see the car lower. So. So the front's only a little bit lower. It is dumped at the back. Let's have a better look. So this wheel and tyre package is about the same rolling diameter as what I want to be running. And I reckon we want the guard to be about level with the top of the tyre. So obviously fair bit more to come down on the front, and on the rear it is tucking a lot. It is, looking at the sill, it's maybe only marginally lower at the rear than it is at the front, so perhaps this is about what its ride height will be at the rear. I don't mind a little bit of forward rake, so I might, once the front is as low as I want it to be, pump the rear up a little bit. But for now, look, it's always fun to see your car lower. The plan's gone a little bit sideways. The hub adapters that I bought, you right there, kid?
Yep.
The hub adapters that I bought to fit the BMW wheels, turns out they were a bit eccentric.
Gav's a bit eccentric.
Gav's also a bit eccentric. So I had these Steelies, which were the best wheels I could bolt on with, sorry, they had the best tires of all the sets of wheels I bolted on. So I gave them a quick and dirty paint job. I'm gonna run on those for now. So now I'm just setting up the ride heights, and then I'll figure out the toe, and I'll probably leave the rest to an alignment shot. But that should get me to a point where I can take beauty shots of it for the conclusion of the video. So
for the thumbnail.
Exactly. So yeah, that's what we're doing. So thank you for listening to me talk about my silly old car for however long this video has been. I'm just finishing up the edit now. Just wanted to let you guys know that there's going to be a little bit of a break in subpar content. Kid and I are both going overseas for a few weeks, and Gavin Nick, while excellent team members who pull their weight, can't do much of the editing themselves. So there's going to be a little bit of a break, probably 5 or 6 weeks, but we will be back and stronger than ever. We have actually filmed some pretty exciting videos upcoming, so we're keen to show you guys what we've been doing. As always, if you enjoyed the video, if you want to see more Volvo content, more Sunny content, or more secret mystery special extra content, then like and subscribe so you catch that and you help us out with the algorithm, and we'll see you in the next one.